Hey, welcome to the CADCAMZEN lab. I'm Jeff, and I've got a special project we're going to work on today. We've got some aluminum training knives that are used in stick and knife fighting in martial arts, if you do Kali or a Screamer or something like that. And we wanted to make a few more of these, so I happen to have some aluminum material. It's the same thickness, a little bit longer, that's okay. But it's actually not quite as wide, so we'll actually be losing a little bit of the finger protection area there. But we're going to go ahead and make this a two video project. We're going to design it in Fusion. That's going to be today's blog and video. And then later on we're going to go ahead and mill these on the Tormach. So stay tuned and welcome to our page.
Remember, this is just one method of designing this knife. There's going to be lots and lots of methods. So I'm going to start by making a rectangle for the basic shape of the knife. And I'm going to type in the values for the length and width, 31.8 millimeters. That's 1.5 inches. I don't know what 12 times 25.4 is, so I just type it in as a mathematical expression and pan this over. So this is going to be basically the blank of material that we're working with. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and create an arc. And in this case, the arc is going to be a 3-point arc. I'm going to pick on the line, the end of the arc, and then the third point is actually kind of the direction for curvature. Now what I want to make sure is that the end of the arc is tangent to the line. And we can actually see that tangent icon there. So we're good to go. I'm going to create an arc at the bottom too. And basically do the same thing. Now we're not following a drawing. We're only making this to look good. So we're not necessarily trying to be exact or trying to match the sample knife exactly. To do the end, I could do an arc, but what I'm going to do is a spline. I'm going to snap on this arc here, give it a couple of points outside of that, and then snap on the other arc. And then I'm going to go back and tell it to be tangent to both of those arcs. So we're doing the tangent constraint coming up right now. So I'm going to say, let's make that spline tangent to that arc. Let's make the spline tangent to that arc. And if I pull on the spline or modify it or something like that, it's going to maintain that tangency condition. So now that I've got the sketch and I've got that spline, I'm going to stop the sketch, zoom in. I'm using the middle mouse button basically to pan and zoom. And I can grab that spline and dynamically drag it, and notice it maintains the tangency condition with that arc. What I want is a nice rounded end on it, because again, we are using these for training with real people. Now what I do is I right click on the sketch and I go back to edit the sketch so I can put more changes into it. From here, I'm going to go ahead and put some fillets in the corners of our knife. So I can give it the fillet. You can go right into the corner and snap or pick both lines. I'm going to give it 10 millimeters in this case and do 10 on the other corner as well. Entering the fillet command again. There's probably a shortcut for that. This is an introductory video. From here, I want to go ahead and work on the hand grip portion of it. And again, this is very subjective. We're not going off of a drawing. We're just going to make something that's big enough and hopefully comfortable. So using the original as a model, I'm just drawing a couple lines in here at an angle. I'm going to put one about 3.5, 4 inches down. One way to do this is just count the little squares to see where you are, if you just want to do it freehand versus drawing something in and adding dimensions. So I'm going to put the other line in. And after I do that, I'm going to do another 3-point arc. And that's going to be the hand grip for this. Before I do that, I'm going to measure from the end of one of these lines to the end of the other. And I'm just curious what that value is, to make sure that the distance is big enough to fit most people's hands. Here's our dimension, 95 millimeters, a little bit less than 4 inches. So now I'm going to do my 3-point arc, and again I'm going to pick the 2 endpoints, and then the third point kind of gives us the direction of curvature and how much curvature. Visually this looks pretty good. It actually looks a lot like our sample. Now that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and add some fillets. Before I add the fillets, I just graphically move that arc up a little bit to give the finger guard a little bit more space to guard the fingers. Go back and edit the sketch. We're going to add the fillet. This time I'm going to use like a 5 millimeter fillet. And same thing down on the other corner. We really don't want any sharp edges on this because, again, we'll be using these in training with other people. So I'm going to get rid of the sharp corner at the finger guard also and put a 5 millimeter fillet in there. Now, interestingly, because that was one line, it got cut away and trimmed, so I need to bridge this gap first with a new line from the end of that arc to the end of the line. So that's a closed contour again, and now I can go back and add that fillet. Now we could extrude this and make our knife right now, or we could add our holes into it, and that's just comes up to a personal preference type thing. Again, there's always more than one way to model something. We can extrude this into our thickness of our shape and add holes, or I can add the holes as part of the sketch, just put some circles in as part of the sketch. That's what we're going to do here. Now we're actually going to do this the slow way just for fun and practice. However, you could make one circle and then make multiple copies of it and then extrude it, and that might save you some time, but in this case I'm just kind of graphically going with the grid here. I want these circles to be about 3/4 of an inch. That's 19.05 millimeters. So I'm going to put the first one in, and then I'm going to go ahead and start adding a couple more. Put the circle, the center point, 19.05. And then we're going to add 3 more holes. Now that I have all 5 of the holes in, I'm going to add 2 smaller holes that we will use for wrapping our paracord around the handle to make the handle just a little bit more comfortable. So again, I'm going to go to the circle command, center and diameter. I'm going to pick close to one end and say that it's a diameter of 4. And the same thing on the other end of the hand grip. Once that's done, I'm going to stop the sketch, zoom out a little bit and rotate it, and take a look at how it looks. I'm pretty pleased with the result, so our next job is going to be to extrude it. I'm going to go under the Create menu and say Extrude. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick my profile. I'm going to tell it I want it to be a 1/4 inch thick. That's 6.35 mils. For those of you who work in metric land. And once I've got that done, then I can rotate my part and see how I like my design for my practice knife. If I decide I want to make the knife a little longer, one of the nice things I can do is just modify and press pull, and press pull on that edge or end of it. Besides editing it on the solid model directly, I can always go back to the original sketch and edit that. So I can go back and activate the sketch and drag on some of those points also, and modify my blade that way. again maintaining all the tangent conditions that I had specified earlier. Now what we're going to do to knock off any sharp corners is create a chamfer on the edge. So I'm going to say modify chamfer. I'm going to make a 1 millimeter chamfer, and I'm just going to pick that edge of the part. Now you could have picked the top one and the bottom one together in the command once. You don't have to run the command twice as I'm doing here. Those are just some ways that you can do things more efficiently and quicker. We're just trying to get through the part and show it as a tutorial here. I'm going to eventually add some chamfers to the holes, and we'll get to that in just a minute off screen. From here, for fun, you can assign a material to the part. So I'm going to go into my bodies and right click on the body, and I'm going to say physical material, and it brings up a dialog box. It's off the screen, multiple monitors. Drag it over, and I'm going to tell it it's aluminum. In this case, it actually is aluminum 6061, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that, and you can just drag and drop it onto the part or put it up or whatever, and it sets that material properties as aluminum. Besides assigning a material to it, you can also assign a material for the appearance, for rendering. So maybe I can pick like a particular material, and that's what it's going to look like on the screen. Or I'm going to come back and actually choose it like a blue anodized aluminum. So I'm going to say appearance. I'm going to pick the anodized blue, kind of drag it onto the part, and close that out. So what you can do from there is you can actually go to the render options and tell it in canvas render. So there's cloud rendering, and there's rendering using the local CPU, and we're going to use in canvas, which is using the local CPU, and it just keeps iterating multiple renderings. I hope you've enjoyed these videos, and stay tuned for part 2 where we actually manufacture this knife. Thank you very much for watching, and check us out, CADCAMZEN.com.